just told us about your sense of the evolution of humanity and how our own evolution on the planet means a big deal to the entire evolution of the universe. And this is why other beings that you're saying, extraterrestrial beings, intraterrestrial beings, are watching us, possibly helping us right now?
At this point, we're getting a lot of help, and we're about to get a lot more real soon, but not from the extraterrestrials. Now, they will step in at the right time, and specifically, it'll be the Syrians. And possibly the Nephilim, if people know who they are. They're actually from another planet inside of this solar system that was talked about 6,000 years ago in our human records. It's nothing new to us. But the ones that are coming onto the forefront now, mm-hmm. the ones who really care about us, who are about to we're about to have a whole nother experience with other species of life besides ours. That is, I think, is going to be extremely positive. We're going to feel good about this one. These people came out onto the surface. They're not from space. This is the thing. Our own government thought that they were ETs for a long time. The government came in and actually sat me down and had a discussion. They wanted to know because they knew I had a connection with them. And they thought they were from space, and they're not. They're from inside the Earth. They look like it when they fly around in their ships, but they look like they probably came from space, but they didn't. They came literally out of the Earth. And I would like to talk about them.
How do you call them? And how did you get in contact with them, and who are they?
Okay, I'll give you a little bit of my personal history with them.
Yeah.
I've been involved with ETs for a long, long, long time. And but in 1996, I had some friends out of Mexico, 6 different friends, all in that same year, individually at different times, came to me and showed me photographs and video footage of these people. Where they were is there's a volcano south of Mexico City, and I can never say it, is Popocatépetl or something like that, but we just call it Popo. But it's a volcano, and it was not active at that time. It became active later. But for a while there in 1996, Mexicans, were climbing up on top of the rim around the outer edge, and these ships were coming out of solid rock, right out of the volcano itself, and going into space. And they were just sitting, hundreds of them, not just 1 or 2. The whole room was covered with people, and they were videoing and taking footage of this. And these ships look like they're made out of lava. They look like lava. They got that orange color, of glowing lava, and they have their own light. If it's totally black, they light up everything around them. They're just lava beings. And so the Mexicans started calling them the plasma beings. And they called the ships the plasma ships. And that's the name that was given to them.
When was that? When was that first appearance in Mexico?
The first time in Mexico that anybody saw them was, I believe, 1991. Okay. And that was a man named Carlos Diaz. He is still the head researcher on these particular people. He's been on board their ships. Through him, they've set up a military connection just for them that studies them, and a very specific scientific team through the military that studies them. 7 times through Carlos Diaz, they have allowed the Mexican government to, at a specific day, at a specific time, these ships would come out of the Earth. They would hover right over the surface of the Earth, and left the scientists do whatever they wanted. They didn't care. They could do any kind of studies or tests or anything they wanted, and they let them do this. They even went on television. The Mexican military went on television and told the people that if they see these ships, don't try to harm them or throw anything or blow them up or anything, that they're our friends, and be careful. They're the good guys. They're not the bad guys.
We can feel your excitement, Drunvalo. Why are you so excited?
Well, because now I've over the years, things have changed, and I've become directly involved in this, really intimately involved with these people, and I've got to know who they are, and they are fantastic. I mean, if they were human beings, we would love them because they're in such high integrity. They would not harm anything or anybody because they know that there's only one spirit that moves through all life everywhere. They're not involved in polarity, and to us, they see themselves as our ancestors. That they used to live on the surface of the earth a long time ago, over 1 million years ago, and they had a similar situation. They were in bodies, not human bodies, but bodies very much kind of like us, and they had developed a science very similar to our electromagnetic science, and so they had communication and all these kind of things going on. And they were also killing the earth, just like we are. We were destroying the environment, and they were doing the same thing. And what they tell me is that one day an ET ship came out of the sky, landed in a very prominent place, got out, and spoke in their language, and told them that something about themselves. That's all they did. They just told them something about themselves and their planet, and then they left. And they said they've never seen them since. And that they said that it took them about 100 years to figure it out, what they were talking about. And when they did, their bodies became pure light. They were able to walk right through each other. And within another short amount of time, they decided not to live on the surface of the earth, but to live inside the earth. And there's really good reasons. If you look at Stephen Hawking's new movie on aliens that he put out, a few months ago. Stephen Hawking begins to talk about the very same reasons that they were talking about, that the surface of the earth is a dangerous place to be. I mean, things happen, hurricanes, meteorites can hit it, volcanoes go off, on and on and on. Tidal waves can go over. Tidal waves have gone right over the top of the Rocky Mountains before. I mean, it's a dangerous place to live. And so they decided to move inside the earth. And what they're telling me now, they moved in stages. They originally moved into underground aquifers and lived in water inside these aquifers and grew crystals that are called selenite. These huge crystals that are 36 feet long, they found, and 4 feet wide. And they actually lived inside these crystals. And then later, they moved deeper into the earth and into huge quartz geodes. And so they're crystal people now. They live in crystals. And but
How
they were
far
very
down?
Their city that I've been in, and I've brought now over 300 people there.
We'll talk about this in a moment, but how far was that?
The one city that I've been going to each time is 266 miles into the earth. It's in pure lava, and these geodes are literally floating in the lava, and they live in there. And
so why didn't we talk about those beings a bit more before? Because we're always hearing about, at least to the general public, more about the extraterrestrial beings rather than the intra.
Because that's what was happening for a long time. These particular extraterrestrial beings were messing with us on all the time, and our governments were deeply involved in all of this, and all the sightings that they were seeing were them. These beings never came out until 1991 and only came out in the country of Mexico. They didn't come out anywhere else. And recently, in the last few years, they've been coming out in the Four Corners area of the United States. And about a month ago, they started coming out over France.
That's what I heard from you, from that big conference that happened.
Yeah,
some people told you that they witnessed some ships above Paris. Is that right?
Same exact ones. And why they are coming out there, I don't know. But they can come out anywhere. And so in Mexico, there is so many sightings and so many. There's no other ET UFO race ever recorded as much as them. There's thousands of hours of video and thousands and hundreds of thousands of photographs of them.
So what
It is
makes
not,
they look different? How do they look like? I mean, we can show a picture of some of the photographs that you have because you have a lot
well,
of photographs and
you can.
videos. How is it
Uh,
different?
we are now getting permission from them to actually make a video of them talking to us. They can talk in any language in the world, and they can create human bodies, or they look. They don't have physical form at all. They
They
are
don't need a
formless.
ship either, from what I understand, since they can communicate in different ways.
No, they know all forms of communication. They don't have bodies, but they can take bodies. And so when you see one of their ships, which you can show those photos at any time whenever you want to, um, those ships are literally them. It's a living body for them. And they also have another body that they can get out of and walk around on the earth that they were using from about 1991 until uh, I'm not sure of the time when they started doing this. Probably about 2000, 2001 or 2 is when they started learning how to form human bodies.
So you're
So
saying
there's
they're walking around amongst us?
a few of them, not very many. And when they first started doing this, it was hard for them to do this. They were studying us, and and as in a human form, when they're in human form and they're relating to us, they're incredibly funny. They are always making jokes and laughing and being very lighthearted. We take extremely serious subjects and they just go, "Don't worry, everything's going to be fine," and they are just not concerned about the threats that have happened to us from the Greys and other people. They're not concerned at all. They're saying, we're going to be just fine. We just have to. They want us just to slow down and just relax, and what's about to happen is going to be a beautiful thing. And they're very clear about this. I was down. We were down in. I introduced one lady to them, and they came in as a certain form, then they turned into a human form to her. And she got so excited, she could hardly stand it when she was talking to one of them, and she knew that who they were, and she said to them, "Now that I've made contact with you, I don't want to lose contact. I want to be with you from now on. You've got to stay with me." And he laughed and laughed, and he said, "Don't worry." He says, "I'll send you emails." I mean,
How did you first got in touch with them?
Well, was through a first time was when these people started coming over and showing me footage and film of them and films of them walking around on the surface and everything else like that. And I wanted to go down there. I wanted to film them and get to know them because I could feel in my heart that this was different. And but my inner guidance wouldn't let me. They said, no, that's later and later. And finally, this man, Carlos Diaz, who is the person through the Mexican government that works through them, he was on board one of their ships, and they told him to come to me. He had never heard of me. He didn't know who I was. Never heard of Drunvalo Melchizedek before. And so he had to do research to find out. And then when he found out who he was, he invited me to Mexico City, and I went down and talked to him. And that's when he gave me a lot of the footage and film and stuff. And he's through him, I learned a lot more. But then, I'm still been getting footage and films and stuff from people down there. And then everything changed recently. And it's hard. Well, okay, I'll tell you the basis behind this.
Yeah.
Carlos said that the being said that I could go aboard one of their ships and I could have 100 people watching. And if I would agree, and I said yes, I agree. So he gave me a date and a time. This was many years ago. This was about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, and he gave me a date and a time when this would happen. And so I said okay. And so I came back here, and I went and talked to Martin Hornstein, who is the producer for the Star Trek movies. I thought it'd be perfect for them to get involved in this. And he got me involved with LeVar Burton, who is, the guy with the little band across his eyes on Star Trek. And he has a filming nation connected to Paramount called Eagle Nation Films. And I asked him if he wanted to come down and film this taking place. And he said, yeah, absolutely, I wanted to do it. So we got it prepared for them to take place. And then Carlos Diaz was invited to go to the Vatican by the Pope John Paul. And as it turns out, Pope John Paul was deeply into ETs, and specifically these particular ones. He was very interested in them. And he went public out to the world saying that not all ETs were bad, that there are ETs that are good and are important for our evolution. And, they didn't give that a lot of
that
credit.
footage.
It's out there and you can find it. And he actually said that. Not only that, he said he was going to build an observatory to prove it. And he started building an observatory in Arizona here, of all places. I don't know why he chose here. But he died before that building was ever even finished. And so it never happened. But at any rate, when Carlos Diaz went to the Vatican and talked to the Pope, something happened and on the dark side that people in these all black vans and all black clothes went into his house, and they kidnapped some of his family members and told him that if he continued to work with me, that they were going to do bad things to his family and to him. Mm-hmm. And so he became very afraid. So when he got back from the Vatican, he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't say anything at all. And he sent people over the border personally to come to me to explain what happened, but that he was afraid to talk to me. So communication was shut down for a few years until about a year ago. And I got a communication back from him saying that the plasma beings are saying that it's okay now and that we can get in connection. And then nothing happened, until about, earlier this year. I don't remember exactly when it was. I had a group of people, about 100 people, 99 people.
I just want to specify that we're in November 2010 right now for people that are going to watch this maybe a few months or a few years later.
There was this year, 2010, yeah. There was another meeting, the first meeting. And that meeting was an advanced level of the work I do with human consciousness. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I had no idea. And as it turned out, we learned something new about consciousness that I never knew, which was necessary to know in order to see these beings, literally. And then after that, the people there themselves became interested in the plasma beings and wanted to know if we can go see them. Mm-hmm. Well, I was in communication, but I didn't know if they would allow that or what. And so that evening, I went into communication, or tried to go into communication, and nobody showed up. Nothing happened. So I figured, well, they don't want this to happen. Mm-hmm. The next morning, the last day of this workshop, the last day I went into meditation again, and they did show up, and they were exuberant. They said, yes, if you can do this, we definitely want you to do it. And so we will help you in every way we can. So I went back on that day, and I said, all right, you guys say you want to do this. Now, these are people that have had a lot of training
with you,
with me
regarding the Merkaba and all kind of other techniques.
Merkaba is just the beginning. There is a lot of other things associated with what is called Kriya Yoga or Kundalini Yoga. There's glands in the head that have to be aligned up. The roof of the tongue has to be aligned in a certain way. You have to be in your heart in a very specific way and seeing through your eyes in a way that you've never seen before, ever. And when you do that, then you're ready to go see these people. And then there's a sphere of light around your body that actually can show up on video cameras if you know how to do it and have the equipment. And it's part of the Merkaba. And so these beings were inside of this ball of light when they were moving toward inside the earth to go in there. And so this is not normal consciousness. Not very many people, very, very few people in the world have this ability. But so that we decided to go down inside of the earth to visit them. And we did. It was amazing. As we went through the crust and down into the lava, we got deeper and deeper, and then I could see the city, but I knew it was there. I had no idea how big it was. It's huge. It's miles across. I can't tell. how big it is because you don't have any reference. Everything is just lava and then this one thing. And without having it next to something else, it's hard to say how big it is, but I can tell when you're in it. It is very, very, very big. And it's a geode, so it's solid on the outside, and then there's crystals on the inside facing inward. You know, you've probably seen a geode before. But these are not little, they're not fuzzy little crystals. These crystals are 3 and 4 feet in length, and so they're huge. And they surround everything. And then the inside of this geode is hollow. And they have long ago learned how to create worlds inside of these crystals and connect them to the external world in different ways. You realize they're at least 1 million years in evolution older than we are.
Where is where is it located on the planet? Like, if there is it somewhere under a city or in a particular place? And is there other terrestrial that could be like in conflict with them, or they're not? How does this work down there?
Down there, they inside the lava aspect, they, as far as I know, are the only ones. Inside the crust of the earth, there's quite a few other ones. But in the lava, they are the only ones. And they have, I don't know how many cities. I never asked them. Most of the cities, though, are located under Mexico, under the Four Corners area of the United States, and some of them in Europe. And France is one of those areas. That's why they can come through there. And nowhere else in the world, from what I understand. And the city that we visited was directly underneath Telluride in Colorado. So we had to go at a kind of an angle when we went down there to reach to them.
So you were aware. So continue on this experience and tell us how all of you collectively got back and actually shared your experience, and was it congruent?
Yeah. Well, here's what happened: is we're like flying now. We're in spheres of light, and what happens is you shrink down into a sphere about 12 inches in diameter, and your body gets very little when you're doing this. People who are photographing with digital cameras have probably seen these spheres of light show the orbs. The orbs are people. They could be human beings, or they could be ITs or ETs, but they're living beings. And when a full-size Earth human being goes into this level of consciousness and begins to move, they shrink into a little tiny ball of light, and it becomes more or less opaque. It's hard to see inside what is there. The person can make it clear, so you can see them. That is possible to do, and we've done that. But so we were flying down to reach these. It was like coming from above. And when we got relatively close to the city, they sent out 99 of their people to come up to us. So they were flying up to us. And then one of them went to each one of us. And when they first came up, they were these lava beings. I never explained, but they look like they're made out of lava. They're orange, they're glowing. They have very big heads and little bodies and arms, and they're funny looking to us. But and so they all came up to us as that, and that's what each person witnessed. And then, right before our eyes, they turned into a human being. It took about 2 seconds, and they were a human being. And then they began to...
females, or just whatever the person wanted to see?
Male or female, whatever that person is more comfortable with. They know. And they speak to you in whatever language you would want to be spoken to. It doesn't matter. And,
would you say, just one little question that popped, would you say that like inside the Earth, it's like another universe is there? There's different levels of universes and different... That
is another subject I would love to talk to you about.
Okay.
Because they're teaching us about that very thing.
Oh.
And there are many dimensional levels to all of this, but taking even the third dimensional level, what they showed me on this last trip just a few days ago, or actually the trip before, and then they showed me a little more on the last trip, was something that the Russians have talked about scientifically, but we've never known for sure if it's really real. But they showed me it was real. And inside the heart of the Earth, the very center of the Earth, is the universe again. The same one that's external, only instead of infinitely large, it's infinitely small. But And when you head toward it, when you actually move toward that, and they took me there, in there, and when you get there, you start getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, till you become something so small that if you couldn't even know that you existed if you were on this level here. And when you come out into, we came out of a, it's like a vortex that they have connected between their city and the center of the earth. And they travel between there all the time. And so they discovered
like a tunnel?
It's kind of like a tunnel.
But
yeah.
like that shaped, you mean?
Yeah, but it keeps getting littler and littler and littler and littler as you go down. And so when they want to go somewhere in the universe, if you go out to the surface and have to travel, that's hard. It takes a long time to get somewhere. But if you go inside the planet or inside of any star, then you're going to find the access to it, and then it's very easy. You can move anywhere at unbelievable speeds. You can go from one star to the next in seconds.
Are you telling me that you went into stars?
Oh, yes, I definitely did. They took me out. The first time they took me out, I popped out. I had no idea where they were taking me. They just said they're taking me into the heart of the earth. And we popped out into the stars, the same stars I'm familiar with, but in a different locations. And we made this huge U-turn and came back again. And what I discovered is as soon as I came out of this, it's like a rotating clouds of vortex that you come out of. But when you get away from it, a second later, it looks just like another star. But when we came back, we came right back, and it looked like we're heading right into a star. But then when we got really close, it was a vortex, and we went in there, and that led us back up to their city again. And it was exciting. It was very exciting. But what they did on the last one to me, I'm still trying to understand what it means, because when I got down there the third time, they said, yes, we want to take you out into the stars again, in the heart. I said, okay. I didn't know why.
Were you the first one?
I don't know. They did say that we were the first people ever to come to their city, ever. They'd never seen a human being ever be able to raise their consciousness high enough to be able to make this journey. What they described this is that humans have to go higher, and they have to come down in consciousness to the specific frequency of the Earth's consciousness, and then we can meet in that place and interact. That's what's going on.
Yet you met in their city.
Yeah, but not. We probably were not seeing everything. We were only seeing what we could see, and and not everything that was really there.
So would you say that somebody else that would experience this at a different time would see something else completely different? Is that possible?
Yes, but that's not what happened. We went down there with 99 people, and when they took us into the city and they showed us all the city, each one with a person with different ones. This is the first time we went in, not the stars inside the planet. And then when we were all ready to come back, and it was a long time, it's like a half an hour or more later, they said, okay, we're going to bring you back, but we're going to bring you back on one of our ships. We did not anticipate that. And they put us all on board one of these big orange glowing ships that you're going to see, that you're going to show them a little later. And we came back. We came back in like 2 or 3 seconds.
How was it inside? How big was it?
You can't tell. It's so bright. It's so incredibly brilliant bright that it's almost blinding. And it's an orange light that turns almost into yellow, but it's just blinding. And when we broke the surface of the earth where our bodies were, that hurt. The light went white, and it went so bright that I couldn't handle it for very long. And they did it very quickly. They put us back into our bodies, and we're gone within at least 1 or 2 seconds.
So the body was also growing as you were going up?
Yes. Well, no, you're talking about, we didn't change. Oh, this is complex. I understand. This is the first time we didn't go down that tube. This is just we went into the city and we came back. And so we all had the experience of being in a spaceship coming back.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
but I was just asking this because you said that as you were going down, you were getting smaller and smaller. So I was wondering, as you go up, you get bigger and bigger.
That was the second time we
That
went
was the
in.
second time, okay.
And then we went down that tube that went to the center of the earth, and that's when you get littler and littler and littler.
Okay.
And we didn't do the first time. We didn't do that. We just went into the city, they put us in the ship, and brought us back.
Okay.
When we got back, everybody talked. Everybody said that what their experience was.
Mm-hmm.
88 out of 99 people had the exact identical experience. 11 of them couldn't remember real well. But to go into a meditation and have an identical experience by 88 out of 99, that's incredible. That just never happens. Everybody usually has different experiences or different ideas. This was precisely the same. Everybody had the same thing. Everybody remembers getting into the ship. Everybody remembers being brought back and put into their body very gently. And
were you continuing to voice things out as you were having this experience, or it was a thought? Were you connected? Were you sharing an experience because you were connected on that level?
We had no more connection once we got there. Everybody was on their own with one person.
Oh.
And so we came back. The fact that we could remember everything was extraordinary. The second time we went down there, it was the similar kind of thing. It was about approximately the same ratio of people that could remember and a few that couldn't. But they amped up the whole thing when we went back down the second time by taking some of us into the center of the earth.
How was that?
Well, that was where I had that one journey around, and they showed me what it was, and there it is. I'm in deep space, and they brought me back. And the third time was something I really didn't expect. And I got to tell you this. It's so amazing. Okay, we went back down again, and we were met with the people, and they brought us down in. And then I was met by these two people, again, the same ones that met me the second time. And they said, we want to bring you back into the center of the earth again. I said, well, okay. And I had no idea why. And so we went down that tunnel again. And I could feel myself getting smaller. And I was more sensitive because I could feel when we came out. I knew exactly when we were going to pop out into space. And when we came out into space, instead of making a big turnaround, we just kept going straight. And he said, the male said to me, excuse me, you see this star over here? And I said, yes. He says, go there. And so as soon as I wanted to go there, we were there like in 2 seconds. Here it is, right in front of me. And then he points to another star and he says, over there, you see that one? I said, yes. He says, go there. And so we were there really, really quickly. And he kept doing this with one star after another star after another star. It was about 10 or 12 stars until finally we came to our star, our sun. And we came into the solar system here. And then we slowed way down and we went past Venus. And the next thing I see is the Earth coming up on us, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we went down to the surface of the Earth and right to the United States, to the Arizona, to the very spot that I was sitting in. And they dropped me off into my body and left. And I'm now sitting there in my body after I knew that I went into the earth and now I returned from space. And it's a very confusing thing that they did to me. I don't know what it means. My wife has been studying this. She also has been studying consciousness all her life.
Claudette, with a totally French name.
Yes, Claudette Melchizedek. She's been studying an ancient form of consciousness that is 6,000 years old. And when I told her this, my experience, she goes, oh yeah, I know all about that. I says, you do? And she says, yeah, it's one of the first, one of the oldest versions that was used, that they knew that the center of the earth was filled with stars, and it was the same ones that are around the earth. And that is one of the meditations that you do, is you go into the center of the earth, and when you're in those stars, you return to yourself on the surface of the earth. And I went, well, okay, that you know, I mean, I didn't know this, but what does it mean? And she goes, well, it speeds up evolution. So I'll give me time. It's only been a few days. I don't, it's only
How
been a
has
week.
been the few days for you, the past few days for you?
It seems normal. I don't know. If something is speeding up, I can't tell. But uh, it's too early, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know. But I do know in my heart now that these people love us. They care about us. They really want to help us. All they want to do is tell us something about ourselves, just like it happened with them, so that we can change our situation, so that we quit war, we quit killing each other, we quit killing the earth, we learn how to live in a sustainable way. And that's all they want to do. They're not interested in taking over the surface of the earth. They've left it a long time ago. They don't want it. They just want to help us.
How can
And
normal people get in touch with them?
well, in these first 3 workshops with about 300 people, over half of them came from other countries in the world, and quite a few came from France also. And those people were told, everybody was told the same thing, that now that you know how to come here, you can show other people and bring them here. You have to show them how to do this. And once you can show them if you want. So they all have permission. People are doing it now. People are going down there. I don't know. I don't know how we can get to a place where everybody can go there, or it's easier for them to come here, really. But when you show these footage of these two ships, these two photographs of these two different ships, a lot of the people that are going to see this have been seeing these around France in just the last few weeks.
Some people that one person that I shared this with, I only shared it with 2 people. One of the person that saw it felt an immense joy and love by just watching it.
Yes, yes. This is a huge shift in it is interspecies communication is what's going on here, of a level of communication where they are at least 1,000,000 years ahead of us in evolution, and they are our ancestors and they care about us. And these people are heart-based beings. They don't think with their brain. They exist from their hearts, and they're hoping that we will understand. I can't anticipate that we would ever evolve to the place where they are really quickly, but we could evolve to a place where we could find peace and balance on our earth. And I think that's all they're wanting to show us. They're not trying to change us dramatically. They're just trying to get us to learn how to live within our hearts and not our brains. And so
Is there any negative in all this that you see, or any place where you experiencing what you're experiencing, you could go too far in this process?
I haven't found anything at all anywhere, and neither has anybody else that has had direct experience of this. That includes people even in outside of my circle that are in Mexico. There are thousands of people there that have had direct experience with them, and you can all of them. I haven't talked to all of them, but I've talked to a lot of them. I've talked to hundreds of them, and they feel the same way, that this is a blessing for the earth, that this is a really positive thing that is taking place right now. And so I don't know. We just have to find out for ourselves how we feel. But
is the government has any concerns about that you know of? U.S.
Well,
or other governments?
but the U.S. government, from what they're telling me, have been in communication with these particular people for 10 years, and they're very interested in them. They have mapped, according to my government has told me through the FBI, that they now have categorized 52 different ET races that are on Earth, and that was 10 years ago or so. So they may have more now, but they know they're out there. But this particular one, they're very interested in. President Obama has made a particular committee to investigate UFOs and ETs and ITs, and they sent an attorney to one of our workshops to see exactly what we were doing. And now that they see what we're doing, I personally, and along with Carlos Diaz, have been invited to go before this committee to show them what we know and what we have experienced and the footage. Carlos Diaz has 200 hours of video and 1,800 photographs of them up close and personal. And so, he has a lot to be able to share with them. And so right now we are waiting for the reply back from the government as to the date and time of when we are going to do this. But from what I can see, our government really is interested in these particular people because I think they also feel the heart and the love, that they're not afraid of them and they're not concerned. They've been very afraid of some of these other ETs because they had good reason. They wanted to kill us all. That's over. That's gone. That's done. And now we've evolved into another level of all of this, and I'm very happy where it's going right now.
So what is your message more than ever to everybody watching this, and what does this reconfirm to you in your own experience and in how you evolve in this lifetime?
Well, we are going through a huge evolutionary spiral right now. Humankind is. Perhaps it is the whole universe, but we definitely are. And we are going to go through a lot of changes. I'm already going through a lot of these changes now that many other people are going to go through, and I know what you're about to go through. And it's easier as more people go through it. But we're going to change. We're going to be something different. We're going to go beyond humankind, meaning we're going to appear as humans in the beginning, but our capabilities, the human potential of what we are is going to exceed anything that we have ever probably imagined. And it's not a bad thing. This is a blessing for humankind. This is good. And we're going to become something very, very different. And it's not going to stop there. We are now on a very fast track evolutionary state, and all I can say is a day is going to come when we're going to look back and say, "Wow, I remember when in the 1910s and 11s when Earth was at war and fighting and there was so much chaos and pain everywhere and food shortages and all these kinds of things. And all of this stuff is going to be solved. We're not going to have illness anymore. We're not going to have death anymore. We're going to be able to live indefinitely as long as we wish. And we will choose when we decide to leave this body and go into another one. Our memories from the past, from a long time ago, long before what we have now, are going to be returned to us. We're going to remember things that took place billions of years ago even, and we're going to become an entirely different species of life. And we're in the middle of this, and we're sitting right on the edge. The day that you see the electromagnetic field of the Earth go to zero, when you see that happen and you hear it happen on things, you've got 2 to 3 weeks, and we are going to begin to rock and roll. It's going to change fast after that, and it's going to be a very beautiful, positive thing. Even no matter how much the outside may be changing, and mountains may be going up and down, it won't matter. If you are connected to the heart of the Earth, why your heart and the heart of the sun, it puts a vibration inside of you. It's very simple, it's easy, and you will remember this before this all takes place. And so at this point, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for it.
Well, I think maybe in another video you could show us how to connect that way so that we know how to do that.
We might be able to do that. If you can do this on a very simple way. You don't have to know a lot of the inner technology of Kundalini, etc. There are a very, very simple way you can do this from your heart, more or less like a child, and it's all that is necessary. And so if you want to try that, yeah, I could do it, man. Anybody can do it. In fact, if you are a child, it's really easy. So, I know moms sometimes say to me, well, what about my children? They're thinking that they're going to make it through, but what about their children? It's the other way around. The children will have no problem making this transition. It's the adults that have the problem. And so, but we're going to do it. It's going to be easy.
Thank you very much, Drunvalo, for this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right.